The crown didn't stay silent by accident, and Meghan Markle didn't mention Archie's missing tooth by accident either. That is the controversy exploding behind palace walls right now, because what looked like a harmless motherhood comment on a glamorous New York stage has suddenly become something far more unsettling once people started connecting the timing, the patterns, and the names involved. One royal child was supposed to own the headlines that morning. One little boy smiling with a gap-toothed grin in the English countryside was supposed to have his innocent birthday moment untouched. But within hours, the spotlight shifted, and Samantha Markle says that shift was no coincidence at all.
Harry horror show rolled into New York last night, and I say horror show for him because if he was ever worried about being the spare within the royal family, then just take a look at his face here as he arrived at the time event where he was playing second fiddle as ever to his wife. That's the look on his face when he comes to the understanding that he's not going to get any special treatment now that he's simply a little bit of royal arm candy for Ms. Markle.
Every now and then, something happens in the Meghan Markle saga that makes even longtime royal insiders stop cold and stare at the timeline twice. Not because it is shocking in a loud, dramatic way. No, because it feels calculated in a quiet way. The kind of move that only becomes obvious once all the pieces are lined up side by side. And according to critics, this latest moment carried Meghan's fingerprints all over it. While Prince William and Catherine were releasing glowing birthday portraits of Prince Louis from the peaceful woods of Norfolk, the world melted instantly. The photos were impossible to resist. A laughing 7-year-old prince sitting on a log with missing front teeth and sunlight hitting his face like something out of a royal fairy tale. The internet exploded with affection. Newspapers rushed the images onto their front pages. Royal fans called it one of the sweetest birthday portraits ever released by the Wills family.
I think a confession for you today that I could very comfortably say is I'm the happiest that I've ever been. And that part, to have a partner and a husband who is just so supportive, and to have healthy kids that are so joyful in the freeness of their life and the safety of their life that we create for them, of all the things that have happened in my life, I never would have imagined getting here at this point. I would feel just so happy and grateful, and I really do.
For a few hours, the entire royal conversation belonged to Louis. His smile, his missing teeth, his energy, his resemblance to William, his chaotic little boy charm. It was pure royal magic without scandal, without politics, without tension, just a child being celebrated. But then suddenly, almost like clockwork, Meghan Markle arrived in New York City for the Time 100 summit, and the atmosphere changed immediately. Cameras turned, headlines shifted, social media fractured into two conversations at once, and critics noticed something chilling about the timing, because Meghan didn't just appear publicly on Louis' birthday. She walked directly into the exact same news cycle and inserted another royal child into the story, her own son, Archie. What followed triggered absolute fury among royal commentators and intensified Samantha Markle's years-long accusations that Meghan has an instinctive obsession with redirecting attention toward herself whenever another royal moment begins dominating headlines. Samantha didn't hesitate. She publicly implied that the entire thing looked deliberate, not random, not innocent, not accidental.
She got with Harry, and fast forward, now she's on the Time 100 list. She's got a kid's book out. She's had a couple of podcasts. I mean, she's now selling jam because it's her jam. I mean, everything that she's got, the 16-bathroom mansion, is all because she, at the right timing, with the right connections at Soho House, married, well, basically found Harry and got him to marry her. So yeah, I mean, what woman wouldn't be elevated if that's your goal in life, to be a social climber or a gold digger? She won the lottery.
And suddenly, people started rewinding the sequence frame by frame, because this wasn't just Meghan attending an event. This was Meghan stepping onto one of the world's biggest media platforms on the exact morning Prince Louis's toothless birthday smile was trending globally. And then, during her interview, after carefully speaking about happiness and motherhood, she casually revealed that Archie was about to lose his first tooth too. Out of every possible childhood milestone she could have mentioned, she chose teeth on that day. at that exact moment. Critics almost couldn't believe the boldness of it. The deeper people looked, the stranger it became. Royal watchers know how carefully managed these public appearances are. Nothing is spontaneous. Every anecdote is selected, every phrase rehearsed, every emotional detail placed precisely where it will create maximum emotional reaction. Meghan knows media cycles better than almost anyone connected to the monarchy. She understands how headlines work. She understands how algorithms work. She understands what trends and what doesn't, which is why critics say it is impossible to believe she had no idea Prince Louis's birthday photos were dominating the internet that morning. And that's where Samantha Markle entered like a wrecking ball, because Samantha claims this is not an isolated event. She says this is Meghan's pattern. According to Samantha, Meghan has always possessed what she describes as an almost compulsive instinct to place herself at the center of whatever conversation is already emotionally capturing the public, sometimes subtly, sometimes aggressively, but always effectively. Samantha insists that Meghan watches everything, every trend, every headline, every reaction. Which means, according to her critics, there is simply no chance Meghan didn't know the entire world was obsessing over Prince Louis's missing teeth before she brought up Archie's. Then came the moment that made royal commentators spiral into full investigative mode. Meghan smiled warmly on stage and declared she was the happiest she has ever been. Those exact words immediately ignited another firestorm because people remembered something else. The Oprah interview, the tears, the accusations, the emotional collapse she once described inside royal life. Suddenly, people were asking brutal questions. If she is happier now than she has ever been, what does that mean about everything she claimed before? Was the suffering exaggerated? Was the misery weaponized? Or is this another reinvention of the narrative depending on which version benefits her most in the moment?
And at the same time, to prioritize what we're going to put out as our next tranche of SKUs as equally important to me as Archie losing his first tooth this week, which is about to happen, and I just hope we're back home in time for it.
You only ever see the backs or arms or a limb of Archie and Lily, and they're always around adults, never ever playing with other children. So whenever she mentions the children, it just, I don't know, nothing ever seems to ring true.
The contradictions piled up fast. On one hand, Meghan projected herself as a glowing, successful entrepreneur, polished and powerful in Manhattan under flashing cameras. On the other, she leaned heavily into motherhood, talking emotionally about rushing home for Archie's tooth milestone. It was soft, relatable, human. Exactly the image her critics say she desperately needed after months of negative press surrounding her projects, podcasts, and business launches. The more analysts dissected the summit, the more it started looking less like a casual interview and more like a highly controlled image rehabilitation campaign disguised as authenticity. And meanwhile, Prince Harry stood nearby almost silently. That detail did not go unnoticed either. Once the most famous prince in the world, Harry now looked strangely secondary beside Meghan's carefully crafted performance. Observers noticed his expression repeatedly throughout the event. Some called it supportive, others called it exhausted, but many royal critics saw something else entirely. A man who once fled the monarchy because he hated being treated like the spare, now quietly standing behind his wife while she dominated every camera angle and every headline. Then came the tooth comparison itself. This was the detail critics could not stop replaying. Prince Louis's missing teeth had already become the emotional centerpiece of the royal birthday portraits. Millions were talking about them. It was the defining visual of the day. And within hours, Meghan introduced Archie's tooth into the exact same media environment. 2 royal children, 2 tooth stories, 1 news cycle. That overlap felt too perfect for critics to dismiss. Samantha Markle doubled down hard after that. She claimed Meghan has mastered the art of attaching herself to emotionally trending moments in ways that appear innocent on the surface, but strategically place her back into the center of attention. And royal watchers started connecting older incidents too. The Oprah interview during Prince Philip's illness, the Netflix releases overshadowing royal tours, surprise announcements landing during sensitive palace moments. Suddenly, critics weren't seeing isolated coincidences anymore. They were seeing a repeating formula, but the most disturbing layer of this entire story may actually involve the children themselves, because Archie and Lilibet didn't choose any of this. Yet their names, milestones, and private moments repeatedly become part of massive media narratives narratives surrounding their parents. A missing tooth for most families would remain a sweet private memory inside a home. But for Archie, it became international headline material delivered from a global stage at the exact moment another royal child's toothless grin was dominating public conversation. Critics argue that says everything about how carefully these moments are weaponized. Critics say Meghan arrived in New York with one goal above everything else: remind the world that she is still important, still influential, still headline material. And what better way to achieve that than attaching herself directly to the emotional royal conversation already dominating the internet that day? Because the truth is brutal inside modern celebrity culture. Attention is oxygen. Once the spotlight drifts, panic begins. And Samantha Markle believes Meghan understands that better than anybody. The most revealing detail, according to critics, was not even what Meghan said. It was how she said it. Calm, controlled, effortless, almost too perfect. When she spoke about Archie losing his tooth, it landed with surgical precision, not dramatic enough to invite backlash, not random enough to feel accidental, just emotional enough to trigger coverage everywhere, and it worked instantly. Headlines shifted from Prince Louis's birthday smile to comparisons between royal cousins living two radically different lives across two continents. Suddenly, Meghan's name was injected directly into a royal moment that originally had absolutely nothing to do with her. And that is where people say the deeper psychological pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Samantha Markle has repeatedly argued that Meghan does not merely enjoy attention, she requires it. According to Samantha, attention is not a bonus for Meghan. It is emotional fuel, the center of gravity, the thing every room must eventually rotate around. Samantha claims Meghan has spent years mastering the ability to redirect emotional focus back toward herself whenever another figure begins dominating public affection. Sometimes through victimhood, sometimes through glamour, sometimes through motherhood, but always through timing. The terrifying part for critics is how subtle the mechanism allegedly is. Meghan rarely appears openly aggressive. She doesn't scream for headlines, she glides into them. She inserts herself through emotionally safe topics that are nearly impossible to criticize publicly. Motherhood, mental health, family, happiness, trauma. That is why the Archie tooth moment became so controversial, because technically nothing offensive was said. A mother mentioning her son losing a tooth sounds innocent on paper, but when placed beside the exact timing of Prince Louis' viral birthday portraits, critics saw something else entirely, a deliberate collision of narratives. And Samantha Markle's accusations only intensified the discomfort, because Samantha speaks not like a random commentator, but like someone claiming to expose a lifelong behavioral pattern she has personally witnessed for decades. She describes Meghan as someone who instinctively redirects emotional energy toward herself almost automatically, whether consciously planned or not. Critics say that explanation suddenly makes years of bizarre timing look less random and more revealing. The terrifying possibility, according to some commentators, is that Meghan may not even fully realize how often she does it anymore, that the attention redirection has become instinctive, automatic, like muscle memory. And if that is true, critics argue, then moments like the Archie tooth controversy may continue repeating endlessly, because the behavior itself has become inseparable from Meghan's identity and survival strategy inside public life. Meanwhile, Prince Louis remains just a little boy with a missing tooth smiling in the woods while adults around him wage global narrative wars he cannot possibly understand yet. Archie remains another little boy thousands of miles away whose private milestone became international conversation before he is even old enough to fully comprehend why strangers discuss him online. Two children connected forever by blood, monarchy, controversy, and media obsession. Two completely different worlds unfolding under the same royal shadow. And maybe that is the image people cannot stop thinking about now. One family releasing quiet photographs and saying nothing. Another family stepping onto a global stage and carefully controlling every emotional beat of the conversation. One side operating through silence, the other through narrative dominance. One child photographed naturally with missing teeth. Another child referenced verbally at the exact moment those missing teeth became global news. Whether Meghan Markle planned every second of it, or whether Samantha Markle is right that these instincts now operate unconsciously, may never truly be proven. Meghan herself will almost certainly never admit calculation. She will say she was simply being a loving mother sharing a relatable moment while attending a pre-scheduled event. And maybe somewhere inside her own version of reality, that explanation feels completely true. But for critics who have watched this story repeat itself again and again for years, the pattern now feels impossible to ignore. The timing feels too sharp. The overlaps feel too precise. The coincidences feel too perfect. And perhaps that is why this controversy refuses to die. Because deep down, people are no longer arguing over one missing tooth. They are arguing over something much larger. Whether Meghan Markle merely attracts attention naturally, or whether she has built her entire public existence around ensuring the spotlight never fully leaves her for long.